Life hacks are an attempt to fix something that is wrong with the way that you're working or the way that you're living, the way that you're doing relationships or something of that nature. But very often a better way to fix these things is to fix them at the foundation. I'm Colin Wright and you are watching Consider This. You see these life hacks and these self-improvement tips just about everywhere that you look these days. You see apps that are invented to try to help you deal with your cluttered inbox and to try to help you be more productive and to try to help you stay in touch with friends and family, despite the fact that your connections day to day number in the thousands. You see different add-ons to your browsers that try to allow you to save things so that you can read them later because you simply don't have the time now. You see decluttering tips because your life is just flooded with garbage that you've accumulated. And these are all good ideas. These are all things that you do want to deal with. But unfortunately, what you're typically doing when you use these life hacks or these tips and tricks is dealing with the symptoms, not with the problem. You're dealing with the consequence of what needs to be fixed rather than dealing with what needs to be fixed. The reason that you don't have time to read that thing right now that you're going to save using Instapaper or something else is that you are mismanaging your time. If you do not have 5 or 10 minutes to sit and read an article, then there's something very wrong with the way that your day is organized. We all have the same 24 hours a day to play with, and we all choose to spend those 24 hours in different ways. What we're dealing with here is a necessity to prioritize better, not to try to come up with gimmicky life hacks that will help you scrape off a second here and a few minutes there. Ideally, rather than trying to take something that you don't have time for now and to put it in a clump of other things that you want to ingest but won't have time to digest later either, creating a new clump of junk in your life that you will never find the time to wade through most likely, is to instead restructure things so that you actually have time to read it now, so that you have some buffer time to spend 5 or 10 minutes to read that thing when you want to read it. And that might mean rearranging the way that you do work or the way that you interact with people so that you're not being distracted from your work every 20 seconds and then having to recalibrate your brain to get back on track. It might be taking that hour that you usually use for Netflix and instead distributing it amongst other things that you want to be doing and ingesting. But it's prioritization that's the problem. It's not that you absolutely have no time. You have the exact same 24 hours that everybody else does. You just need to figure out how to spend that time better for the priorities that you have. Better will mean something different for every single person. But for you, if it's important to read that stuff, you need to find that time and make sure that it's distributed where you actually need it. The same is true with emails. Go through and start spam marking all the junk mail, unsubscribe from everything that you can, try to move your communication to places where there'll be less clutter, less conversation necessary to get the same things done. Move some of your personal interactions over to social media so that you can keep up with each other without having to send messages back and forth quite so often. And stop signing up for so many things. Don't give out your email address quite so easily. There's a lot of ways to nip this problem in the bud, but you have to make sure that you do it structurally. Fix the crumbling foundation. Do not keep trying to fix the paint job of the building built on top of it. Now, the reason most people don't do this is because it can seem really difficult to take the time to identify the structural issue rather than slapping bandages on the symptoms. It's much easier to download an app and pay a couple of bucks for somebody to try to solve your problem. But at a certain point, these companies and these people benefit from you continuing to have this problem. If you suddenly have all the time in the world and can read everything that you need, you will no longer need to pay for these apps. And so there's a persistent loop here where you have a problem and then you get something to solve that problem. And then it's in their best interest to make sure that you continue to have that problem and never solve the foundational issue that creates it. Much better for you and for ultimately the economy that we live in that has all of these things that are trying to solve these problems, because then these people could put their time and energy towards other things, their innovative minds toward other problems, is to take that additional step. Anytime you identify something like this in your life that needs fixing, take that additional step to figure out what is the root cause of it, rather than just trying to solve the symptom. This is something that I try to tell people about minimalism all the time, is that minimalism is not decluttering. It's not going through your home and getting rid of this and organizing that and making sure that everything looks ready to snap a photo of and put up on Instagram. It's not prettifying, and it's not organizing even. It's ensuring that you organize your life in such a way that you're focusing on the priorities. And if you do that, then you're less likely to bring a bunch of junk that you don't actually need into your life. You're staunching the flow at the source rather than dealing with the consequences, rather than dealing with the tide of garbage that will come into your life. You're just making sure that it doesn't arrive in the first place. And then, yeah, maybe then you do go through the existing pile of stuff that you have and get rid of the stuff that you don't need and keep the stuff that you do need and organize it just so and take a photo and put it on Instagram, sure. But that itself is not the solution to the problem. That, again, is part of the process. That is not the solution. What you want to do is take a step backward, look at the actual foundational issue that you have not focused on the important stuff. And so you continue to bring a bunch of unnecessary possessions and relationships and work and everything else into your life. Anytime you find yourself struggling through this type of persistent problem day in and day out, do not look for a quick fix solution. Instead, take that moment to look at this problem as an arrow that is pointing you toward the actual problem. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up, like, or a share would be amazing. You can ask me a question to answer in a future video if you would like in the comment section below. You can find out more about me and my work at colin.io. My blog is excelelifestyle.com. My podcast is letsknowthings.com. And you can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet at Colin is my name.